Hey guys, welcome back to Wentworth Life and welcome to the next prisoner review. Apologies for the big delay. Now in this video I am going to be reviewing Prisoner Cell Block H, episode 30, Topdog Squabbles. Now this is an interesting episode because we get a good mix of new characters and some old faces. Mum and Judith Ann were back in this episode. Meg goes to visit them and has been visiting them quite frequently on the outside, even though technically she's not allowed to. Nevertheless, it's good to get a little Mum update. Meg fills Mum in on all the gossip from the prison and tells Mum that B is actually in hospital after being stabbed. So when Judith Ann goes into the hospital for a checkup on her pregnancy, Mum and Judith Ann try to see B and they bring along some flowers and stuff and things like that and a letter. But the officer tells them that there is no visitors allowed, but she can deliver the letter to B. Now this is actually an important moment because it will play a bigger part in a future episode. Mum is obviously still on parole and Jean is her parole officer, and Judith Ann accidentally lets slip about Meg coming to visit them, and Jean is not impressed, reminding Meg that she could jeopardize Mum's parole. But I mean, come on, it's Mum, it's Mary Brooks, for goodness sake. Nobody is really going to care, let's face it. Nolene Burke was in this episode. Now, Nolene is one of those characters who does a few stints over, the first 130 episodes, where she would be in maybe around 10 episodes and then she'll get released and she'll be back maybe 20 episodes later for another short stint and another, different storyline. She is actually a hilarious character with some belly laughing one-liners. So B is in the hospital recovering from her stabbing, and Monica Ferguson is taken over as top dog while B is away. But Nolene doesn't seem keen on the idea, and I think Monica kind of sees Nolene as a little bit of a threat. I mean, not in a showdown kind of way, but Nolene is one of those, clever shit stirrers who, would more often go around the prison planting seeds and maybe trying to get support that way. So Monica shows Nolene who is the real boss and punches her in the dining room, but Monica sets Nolene up by saying that Nolene actually attacked her, and Nolene is then taken to the pound and basically out of the way. Now, onto the subject of Anne Yates. Where the hell is she? Well, all is revealed when the women go back to work the following morning. Now Monica, she is on the press because she is acting top dog. Vera is being her usual difficult self, and Lizzie opens up the dryer only to discover Anne Yates' dead floppy body. This is when Inspector Grace arrives at the prison and he tries to work out whether or not if Anne was murdered and then put in the dryer, or if she indeed did suffocate while hiding from the women. Maybe somebody locked her in on purpose. This is when Nolene and Monica try to blame each other, but it's actually Nolene who tells Inspector Grace a detailed account of Monica hitting Anne over the head with an iron and then killing her and sticking her in the dryer. Now, we all know that is a load of garbage, and even Vera knows it because, it is revealed that there was no head injury, she suffocated while hiding, and it was actually Vera who closed the door. So Vera has actually committed murder. I mean, it was unintentional, it was an accident, but she is responsible, and she doesn't even tell the governor about it. She keeps it quiet. Ooh, Vera. Of course though, what does this now mean for Vera's boyfriend George Lucas? Well, George wants Vera to basically quit her job and run away with him. And Vera, being so blinded by her love to George, she ends up agreeing. She even packs a suitcase and phones in sick. I mean, what are you doing, Vera? George asks Vera to hold on to a package, which turns out to be a load of money. And when Inspector Grace goes to visit Vera at home because she's sick, George ends up ringing her, and she manages to let him know that the cops are with her right now. So George tells Vera that he will need to disappear for a while, and he tells her to deny any knowledge of him or any associates of Anne Yates. So Vera manages to get out of that one by the skin of her teeth, and Inspector Grace leaves. But Vera is really upset that the love of her life has had to leave her and he's had to go on the run and hide without her. Now, I do genuinely feel that George does like Vera. I wouldn't say he loves her, but he is, he's definitely very, very fond of her, and he cares for her and he wants to look after her. Vera, on the other hand, is totally in love with George. He's the first man who has ever, never run a mile from her, and he treats her, to dinner and presents, and yeah, we've all been there. At some stage in our lives, many of us would have been blinded by love. Let's just hope Vera doesn't end up on the wrong side of her own bars, because could you even imagine that? On to Jean Vernon and Steve Wilson, because Steve ends up taking Jean out for dinner. However, Steve has an ulterior motive, like he always does. Now, while they are at dinner, he brings a surprise guest, a lady called Clara Goddard, a very rich woman who is into charity work and seems a little bit ditzy to me, but I do think it is a little bit of an act. She doesn't, she's definitely not as stupid as she comes across. Anyway, it turns out that Steve and Clara want to open up a halfway house for ex-prisoners using Clara's money, and Steve would like Karen Travis to eventually run it when she, is released from prison. Now, Jean ends up telling Clara that the money will be better spent at the Salvation Army, but Clara wants to start this halfway house and nothing is going to stop her. Jean ends up feeling completely used, which I can totally understand, because Steve did get Jean to that dinner under false pretenses. Not gonna lie, I do find Jean and Steve a bit of a bullfest when they're together. Anyway, Jean and Steve, they end up having another argument and they end up parting ways. And like I said, I do really find these Steve and Jean scenes tedious. I'm confused on what, where the writers are going with these two. Are they gonna end up in a romantic story, or are they just gonna keep arguing every couple of episodes? By the end of the episode, Jean is in Steve's office and Clara comes running in saying that she is in some sort of predicament and she thinks that she is about to be arrested. Okay, well, we'll just leave that one there. Anyway, not a bad episode despite not having any B. Smith appearances. It's going to be interesting watching Monica play the top dog role for a while. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, she ends up letting the power get to her head. I'm not sure, but it's going to be absolutely entertaining to watch. My favourite part of the episode is definitely the discovery of Anne Yates in the dryer, an absolutely classic prisoner moment. My least favourite moment has to be any scenes between Steve and Jean. They just bore me whenever they are on screen together. Jean is okay when she's away from Steve, but stick them together and I'm pretty much yawning. So let me know what you guys think of Prisoner episode 30, and let me know if you were happy to see Mum Brooks back. Okay then guys, well, thank you all for watching today's video. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, stay safe, and I will see you all again very, very soon.